this sketchbook challenge, we're going to take a look at how to draw a human skull step by step. We'll start with a circle, and that represents the cranium. Then we'll bring a line right down the middle and a line across that line. That will represent the eye line. Then we can start to build some of the contour lines or outlines based on the lines that we've already drawn. Now, the line across the middle that kind of curves is the eye line, and the line that kind of comes down from the top to the bottom is going to represent the length of the skull. So using these two lines as the primary guide, we can start to develop some of the information for the front of the face of the skull, if you want to call it a face. So when we draw these contour lines or outlines, we're going to vary the line quality. So we're going to have some lines that are a little bit thicker and some lines that are a little bit thinner. This will help create the illusion of form and will make our drawing more interesting. When you're drawing a skull, be sure to let your line bend and curve in pretty abrupt directions. The skull is a very organic shape, and if you're a little too controlled with your line, it's going to look stiff or stagnant, or may not even look like a realistic skull. So a little bit of the shape for the nose cavity, and then we'll go ahead and draw a line for where the upper jaw meets the bottom jaw, just to find that a little bit more. There are a few lines inside of the eye sockets, and we'll put a couple of subtle lines outside of the contour lines. There's all kinds of cracks and breaks and fissures in the skull as well. Now we'll draw the line for the back part of the skull. So we'll just use that original circle that we drew kind of as a guide, but it's not really a circular shape here that we define with the contour line. It's a little bit more angular. Now we can define the shapes for the individual teeth, and they'll kind of overlap each other. As we come around the front side or the right side of the skull, we can see more of the teeth. Same with the bottom teeth, and usually teeth are a little bit larger than you think they should be, especially when they're on a skull. We'll put a little detail down here of a sinus cavity. And then we'll just continue to work a few minor details here and there. We can start to think about the light source a little bit and put a little shadow in between the top of the skull and the lower jaw. And we can go back and start to enhance some of the line quality, making some of the lines a little bit thicker. That'll help, again, to create the illusion of form. You don't want to do this everywhere, just in a few places. Now we'll start to work that shadow and that value a little bit further, starting in the areas that are the darkest. And since this is a sketch, we'll be pretty loose here. Of course, it'll be dark inside of the areas where the eyes would be and in the area of the temple. And since our light source is kind of originating from the front left, a lot of the back side of the skull is going to be darker. I'm not going to use any smudging here. I'm just going to adjust the value or adjust the shading with my pencil and the amount of pressure that I put on the pencil. That'll create a nice consistent look to the sketch. Another thing to keep in mind is anything that recedes is usually going to be darker in value, and anything that protrudes is going to be lighter in value. We can see this in the cavities of the skull. And we'll put a little bit of cast shadow behind the skull as well, so it looks like it's sitting on a surface and not just floating there in space. So if you want to check out some more step-by-step tutorials like this one, be sure to visit sketchbooknation.com.